Tips with Toni. Tips with Toni. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Toni. Tips with Toni. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Toni. Woo.
Hello, and welcome to the Tips with Toni podcast. I'm Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. This next interview is the founder of One a Week. It is a nonprofit organization that rewards people who demonstrate good deeds. A little bit of kindness goes a long way, and you're going to learn why. Without further ado, here is the interview with Boomer, the owner and founder of the nonprofit organization One a Week. Hi, Boomer. This is Toni. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Me too. As we were discussing before we started this, it's like slightly different than the usual podcast I get on, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that is important to branch out and connect with people who might not necessarily be doing exactly like if I only interviewed nutrition coaches or registered dietitians or entrepreneurs or personal trainers or whatever. I feel like after a while, there's only so much we can talk about. I like having the variety because at the end of the day, we just want to be inspired, and what you're doing right now is super inspiring. So thank you.
Yeah, and it all revolves around health at the end of the day. So
exactly.
It works.
Yeah, and also too, for the people who are listening, I'm going to share it in the show notes, but I am reposting the episode that, Boomer had interviewed me on his podcast. And we talked about the parallels between taking care of your nutrition and mental health. And so if you haven't shot over to his podcast yet, I'll leave it in the show notes to listen to that episode and all the others. You definitely want to go ahead and do that. But yeah, so I'm excited to talk today.
Absolutely. I'm ready to get into it.
All right. So why don't we just start by have you introduce yourself and just talk about kind of who you are, where you're from, and what you do and why.
So my name is Boomer Perrault. I am a 27-year-old living in Connecticut. Just pretty much your average Joe, nothing too special about me. But last year, I guess the end of 2017, I started an unofficial organization called One a Week, which promotes positivity and mental health through good deeds. And this all came about, it's been many years in the making unintentionally. I think 3-ish years ago, I was in a pretty serious relationship and I got dumped, and it was probably the lowest point I've ever been in my life. Mm. And, I was, this is the girl I'm going to marry, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously I got crushed when she didn't feel the same way. But during that time, everything I tried to do to get myself out of that hole, whether it was playing sports or working out, which usually always works, hanging out with friends, anything I did, I could never get my mind off of it. And then one day, I don't remember what I did, but I think I just donated some money online, but I did an act of kindness, and it was only for maybe 10, 15 minutes, but it made me feel good. So not that I didn't do nice stuff before, but after that, I started going out of my way to do more kind things. And again, it might have only been for 5, 10, 15 minutes, but it continued to make me feel good. Around this same time, on the radio, they were talking about a study that was done on suicide survivors. And I don't remember the exact percentage, but a large percentage of them had said that if somebody had just smiled or said hello to them the day that they attempted to take their life, they don't think they would have gone through with it. Mm. And, obviously something as small as a smile is an act of kindness. So that never left my mind. I continued to do my good deeds. And then the summer of 2017. So fast forward a year or two, I was driving in my car, and at the snap of a finger, almost the entire concept of 1 a week just came to me. And I called my buddy up, who I knew was into mental health and doing good stuff, and he was on board to help me start it. So the concept was people were going to share their good deeds with us via our social media pages, Facebook and Instagram, and we were going to pay it forward by giving gifts out to participants. So we started reaching out to some obviously very small companies because we were just getting started, but companies loved the idea. They got on board. So the beginning of 2018, we started to give away a sponsored gift, one sponsored gift every week to someone who shared their good deed with us. And Facebook has not grown as much as I like, but our Instagram started again January 1st, 2018. And so we're about a year and a half in, and we've had over 4,000 acts shared with us on Instagram, which is pretty awesome.
Wow. I have goosebumps.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. When I first started it, I was like, okay, if we can get 1,000 in the first year, that would be great. And it took off pretty fast. The first month, it was maybe 15, 20, 30 a week that would get shared with us. But then over the next few months, it really started taking off, and it's kind of dialed back and stayed consistent for the last 10 months. But we're still getting about 50-ish every single week. So it's been pretty awesome. Wow.
Well, that is so inspiring and so amazing, because you basically took a situation that, it was heartbreaking and hurtful, and you turned it into something meaningful and powerful. And now you're sharing it with others. Like, you could have easily been doing this alone. And you would have been helping the small amount of people, within your reach, and it would have been just as great. But the fact that you decided to kind of go above and beyond and really just, kind of extend this message and make it a lot bigger than you probably initially even thought it would be is really, really cool.
Yeah. And that's something too, that a lot of people, I don't know about a lot, but there's definitely people out there who have problems when people do something kind and share it. And they say, oh, it's not genuine. If you're sharing it, you're just doing it for clout, essentially. And my response to that is, one, that's not the only reason people share good things, as my page has shown, because multiple people have messaged me. It does inspire people to do other good things that they wouldn't have thought about. And it's just a way, there's so much negativity online. It's just a way to get away from that for a bit. And then also, I started this by talking about the study I heard on the radio about a smile being able to save someone's life, essentially. And if there is someone that is doing something solely to get recognized, doing something good solely to get recognized, if that could potentially save someone's life, why is that a bad thing?
Right. So be it then.
Yeah. So even if someone doesn't have good intentions, if they're still doing something good, that's better than the person, that's leaving a negative comment, sitting at home doing nothing.
100%. And and also that's a big point. It's kind of the parallel of what I see in the nutrition world. There's just so much just not great information out there, a lot of restrictive diets, and it's just people are being saturated by false information, and it's just we need to be that light that shows people there's a better way and nutrition's better. And I think you're really doing this very similar thing where on the media, in the news, there's constantly political debates, and this person got murdered and this person is got that, it's just so negative and just all consuming and just so saturated with just negativity that we need a lot of it. Actually, I don't think people are doing enough of it, of people smiling, of people doing good deeds, and also I think too of being rewarded, of showing kindness, because when we're rewarded, we want to do more of it. So when you do highlight someone for their efforts, exactly like you just said, it's only going to encourage people to want to do more good things. And listen, people could get prizes for doing negative things, and people can get prizes for doing positive things. And like, why wouldn't you want to like reward someone for doing something positive?
Exactly. And there's just so much positive that comes out of even just giving the gift out. That's our way of doing something kind. That's the company's way of doing something kind. A lot of the people that receive these gifts give them out to other people. So it's just a chain reaction. So it's not all bad. People just like to twist it, things like that, into a negative way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So give me like an example, like what's a couple things that happened? Like, what's one of your favorite things of someone doing? What good deed did they do? And like, what gift did you send? I'm just curious, like how more specifically, like how this works. Like, I get the general concept, but like, I want to know like, what have some people done?
The most common ones are that, well, we're getting pretty big in the kindness rock community. Do you know what the kindness rocks are?
No, please share.
Basically, people have rocks. I don't know if they just find them on the ground or buy them or something, but they have rocks, and a lot of them, they paint anything on them, but a lot of people paint inspirational quotes on them, and they leave those around their town for people to find. So that's one of the most popular ones. Another popular one is giving out gift cards, specifically Starbucks gift cards.
Oh yeah, those are clutch.
People love their Starbucks.
I love coffee. Okay.
My personal favorite came to us, I think, 2 or 3 weeks in. Well, I've seen it a couple times, but that was the first time I ever saw it. And I never had thought about it previously, but somebody made some cards to, again, like inspirational cards to send to a children's hospital. So I literally the next week I did that, and I've done it a few times since.
Wow.
Really anything involving children, specifically either ill children or disabled children, those are always my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I mean, yeah, because honestly, like, I think, yeah, I mean, obviously you're making somebody's day better, but I think there's something to be said about the fact that you're literally pausing from your day. And I'm sure you have a ton of things going on and a ton of responsibilities. And you're really sitting down, you're writing out a letter, or you're intentionally writing a quote on a rock, or you're painting someone a picture, or you're smiling, whatever it is. Like, you're purposefully slowing down to really take a bigger look at like what's happening, and to really recognize like, okay, like everybody is going through something, and like I have the power to make someone smile today, and I can, improve their day even just a little bit. And I think there's a lot to be said for a person who's willing to kind of take themselves out of their own stuff, because I'm sure you've done it even in times, like you said, when you weren't feeling your best. And like, I think it's helpful for that person who may be listening, who is struggling, to know that like there is a way to feel better, but you do have to kind of take that time to slow down, to kind of really think about like, how can I change my focus and like give back in some way? And I think that you do that very well.
Yeah. And look, I'll be honest, I've said this before, but when I do my good deeds, it's almost for selfish reasons, because it's nice to see someone else feel good, but it makes me feel good that I'm making somebody else feel good.
Right.
So you benefit also from doing kind stuff. It's not just the recipient of the good deed. It's the doer. It's people that witness it. Everybody wins. I've never heard someone, I'm sure there are some people out there, but I've never heard anyone say they were less happy after they did something kind for somebody.
Yeah, absolutely not. That wouldn't make sense at all. And honestly, well, here's the thing. I actually might kind of argue with you just a little bit on that, in the sense of like, I know you personally would do it because you are, it is coming from like a genuine place, right?
Well, yeah, that's the key though. That's the key.
Yeah. Like I would just say like, although like I just want to make it clear for those who are listening, like you can't just like smile at someone when really deep down you're just like that brat or whatever. Like you have to like genuinely like really think like this is going to make them better and I want them to be better. although it is for my selfish gain too, I genuinely also want them to be better.
Yeah. And that's what it is, because I've held doors open for people, and I always get so mad when they don't say thank you, but I don't turn around and say, I wish I didn't hold that door open. I say, hey, that was the right thing to do. I did something kind. I did it. So I'm still winning. Mm-hmm. It's I don't need to be rewarded for doing something kind. I guess I can look at it as a bonus if somebody says thank you after I hold the door.
Totally. Wow. So do you mind me asking, like, are you spiritual? Like, did you grow up in church at all? Or is this kind of just something that you just chose to start doing?
No, I am. And I know people hate this kind of phrase. I'm not religious at all, but I'm spiritual. And even I'm like above average when it comes to spirituality.
No, I agree.
Like when I say that, I believe in karma. That might be as far as it goes, but I've become more spiritual, I guess, over the last couple of years. But there's definitely some people out there that take it a lot further than I do. I'll say that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just wondering kind of where this was inspired from. So it was really mostly because you mentioned that there was a lot of things that kind of led up to that. So it sounds like the breakup was kind of like the icing on the cake, but I'm curious about kind of how you grew up, maybe your career path. Like, what are other things that you've noticed that you think have really made this, like, really for something for you to really go kind of full throttle with and like really see this through?
I mean, to be honest, as far as the way I grew up, nothing would lead you to believe I would do this. I've always had very generous parents, which obviously made me more prone to being generous. And I've just naturally I've always felt bad doing negative things towards people. Which makes me want to do more positive things. But there's really not much about me, which is why I like to say I'm an average Joe, an average person, because when the stereotypical person that would start something like this for a lot of people is that very spiritual person that is all about positivity, very progressive, never makes fun of people, anything like that. But if you hung around my friends and I for 10 minutes, you would never think I would be doing something like this, because most of our conversations is just dogging on each other, giving each other a hard time. I love watching videos online where people slip on ice and stuff like that. So I'm not the typical person you would think that would start something like this, which I think is almost a good thing in a way, because it shows that anyone can do something like this. I didn't. It doesn't take a lot of money. It's taken a lot of time, but other than that, it's just the will to want to make the world a better place at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's so special. And like, I feel like everybody deep down kind of knows it feels good to help others and they want to give back, but for whatever reason, they don't always listen to it and act on it. So I think that's really great that you have chosen to really just like kind of listen to your heart, whether you're spiritual, religious, whatever you want to call it. Like, you've chose it to kind of like, you've noticed that you felt bad when you treated, when you didn't, maybe if you weren't kind to others. And so therefore you wanted to be kind to them. And like, you kind of just listen to your heart. Like, as cliche it is, that's what you did. And so it's led you to who you are. And I think more people need to really slow down and pay attention and listen to what, like, they're whatever you want to call it, like what you're supposed to be doing in this world. Because it is true. I agree that I think we're all put on this earth for a reason. We all have a purpose. And I think the sooner you find it, the sooner you will be able to live that life of fulfillment and truly like just be happy.
Yeah, and just going after it too, because a lot of people are scared or intimidated by starting something. And that's honestly why I asked my friend to start it with me, because I was petrified of putting myself out there. I'd never done that before. So it made me feel more comfortable doing it with somebody else. But after I did start it, he kind of, he helped me start it, but I've pretty much done everything since. And it's really just helped me grow as a person in so many different ways. getting involved, or not just getting involved, creating this.
Yeah. So tell us more about that. How has it helped you develop as a person?
The two biggest things, well, I guess three, if you want to say, I just naturally see, I started to look for more ways to do good, but the more you do that, and this is anecdotal evidence, although I'm sure you can find some real evidence online, but the more you look for ways to do good, the more you'll naturally see it over time. So I naturally see things I never would have seen before. So that's one. My confidence is a big one too. Again, I have that podcast, and I would have never in a million years started a podcast before this. And then another big one is my work ethic, because even though we're still pretty small, it's taken a lot of work, a lot of hours just to get it to where it is. And all the plans I have that I haven't talked about yet. So those are the three biggest ones for me.
Wow. And those all sound like something that somebody can utilize, whether they're trying to be better at their job or in their life, just in general. Those are great assets to have.
Oh, I think you can make a case those are the three most important things. Like I've always said, if I ever have a kid, the three things I'm going to teach them are work ethic, kindness, and confidence. And that's what One a Week has given.
I think I'm going to write that as the title. 1 second. Let me write that down.
There you
go. Work ethic, kindness, and confidence. And I can completely agree with that. I think that everybody in this, like, oh my gosh, can I agree with that so much? Like, I'm just like thinking about it now from like just in today's world, in today's society, I think people just want results fast and they don't want to have to work for it. Right. And so, but we know that confidence comes from putting in the work, from trying, and from just being nice to other people. Because like you said, karma is going to come back, and just to be giving and trust that it's going to come back to you, because you know, those who give get, and it's just, you're not doing it with expectation. You're just giving freely. But that state, like you said, you start to see things more positively because you're a more positive person. And so you see opportunities and then you take action on them, and then they build off that. And so, yeah, that is totally golden. And now the title of the podcast.
there you go. You're welcome for that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I also love, and I don't know, has anybody ever told you this before? So I could have swore when we first started talking, because I didn't know what you looked like, and I just heard your voice from the previous podcast. Like when you said you were 27, I was like, no. Like you sound so mature, and just what you're doing is so mature. And I think that comes from you doing what you've done. It's kind of helped to just develop you into like someone kind of like wiser beyond your years.
Are you saying I have an old man voice?
Well, your voice. Your voice. I'm so curious if the listeners think the same. Guys, please let me know. Send me a message. Send us a message. All in good fun. But I'm curious. But I did think that you were older, but also more so too because of what you were doing. Like knowing that you had, would you call it like a nonprofit?
Yeah, we call it an unofficial nonprofit.
Yeah, so like having a nonprofit, like that's rooted in giving to others and kindness and all. I don't know. Like ultimately, I would have just thought to start off just doing something like that, you'd be at least 30. Like I just feel like until
I'm not too far off.
No, but I just mean like until then, it's like right now, like my life is like trying to figure out like how to financially support myself and create a life where I can maybe, but then I'll start the nonprofit. Like mentally, I feel like anybody listening, that's what they're thinking. They're like, okay, I got to like do this, do that. And then I can do what I really want to do. Like, then I can do that passion. But like, they like create these, these ages or these limits or these things. And like, I think from just experience of like knowing people who start nonprofits and like being a part of some and like, all that, they tend to be older.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty much doing it in the opposite way because I do have plans and ideas to turn this into because I don't make any money off this right now. In fact, I spend a lot of my money on it.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah. But I do have plans to turn this into something that I could do full time. So I'm just taking the incredibly long-term approach to it. and hoping that I execute right, but also all the karma over those first 3, 4, 5 years will come back and it works out. So
it definitely will. Honestly, speaking from experience, Boomer, like I had my Tips with Toni has been a brand of free blogging for 8 years. It wasn't until last year that I started my own business and actually started to it's open up businesses for online nutrition counseling and actually helping people. But prior to that, it was really just me giving out information and free content and all of that stuff. And now it's being utilized for both giving free content, but also as a great way for me to make connections and help me to, build my business that way. And so there's no doubt in my mind that if you just keep doing exactly what you're doing and just giving, it will eventually come back to you and it will create a life for you that you see yourself doing. Because it sounds like this is something that lights you up. You wouldn't spend hours doing it after a full day of work or on the side or just, spending your money on it without getting that initial kind of return if you didn't really love it. And so I think anybody in life that ends up being able to be in a position where they can do what they love full time, we know money is not the reason why you're doing it. And so therefore you will be successful because those who go in with it's going back to if you're giving with expectation or if you're giving just because you were told to give, but you generally don't want to give, that's not really going to help or benefit most anyone really.
Yep. And by the way, a lot of people do have the ability to live out their ideal life. They just are either scared to do it or are not willing to put the work in. Because even the amount of work I put in right now, I don't believe I could achieve what I want to achieve if I don't start working harder. And to be honest, I could work as hard as I possibly could, and I'd still probably say that because that's just my mentality. But a lot of people are too lazy to do what they want, or they just don't believe that it is possible. But when you really sit down and think about it, 90% of people's, maybe not ideal, but pretty close to their ideal life is within reach if they put in the time and effort.
Totally. 100%. And I agree with you. It takes that belief in yourself, but you got to also be willing to put in the work. So it's definitely twofold for sure.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, Boomer, is there anything else you want to share? Anything else you feel like our listeners need to learn about today?
Well, if anyone does have any good deeds they'd like to share with us, the way you do that is you can make a post on Instagram and then tag us, which our Instagram is @_1 a week. And that's the number 1. So @_1 a week. Tag us and use the hashtag 1 a week. And then on Facebook, you just go to our page, which is facebook.com/1 a week challenge, and you could just post it there. So those are the 2 places you can share your deeds with us and maybe even get a gift for it.
That's awesome. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Boomer. I will definitely include both of those links in the show notes for anybody who wants to learn more and to contact you and to share their good deed. So thank you so, so much. And I look forward to future connections and collaborating in other ways.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a lot of fun.
Wow, was that not powerful? He really is just a good person with a good heart, and I feel honored to have had the opportunity to interview him. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please screenshot it and share it on Instagram or Facebook. Share it to your story. Tag us, tag 1 a week, and tag Tips with Toni. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, to subscribe to 1 a week podcast, subscribe to the Tips with Toni podcast. And if you really, really enjoyed it and you feel like you want to be extra generous and giving today, please write a review. When you write a positive review, it allows other people to find the podcast and basically helps to spread our message. So thank you so, so much. As always, you're listening to the Tips with Toni podcast. I'm Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy 1 bite at a time.